always like probably started like every time I work like with teachers, like, you know, like if I'm doing these courses with them, is I start with this question, like, how's the math knowledge of an educated adult similar to and different from a professional mathematics teacher's knowledge? How's the math that, say, like your dad or your mom know different than what a teacher would have to know to teach math effectively? That's my first question, right? And here would be some of the differences that I always try to highlight or try to get out of those discussions or activities that I do with them, right? The first one would be like an educated adult, like let's say someone working in business or something like that. They have to know how to get an answer, right? If you're doing your tax, you have to know how to be able to figure out percentages and addition and stuff like that, right? But a math teacher, their job is different than that. Their job is like, how do you create like the conditions so that other kids can learn mathematics or other people can learn mathematics? So your goal is not to get the answers. Like every teacher in the room can get the answers to the questions they're given to children. And so like if you assign a problem and the kids work on it, and then you just sort of like put the answers on the board, it shows that you get the answer, but it doesn't show that the kids have understood how to get the answer or what that answer is meaning to them. Then the second point that I would try to bring up there is like the educated adult or someone working like an engineer or something like that. They have to check to confirm that their solutions are correct. So they have to know how to make sure that it's correct, their answer. So, you know, they get a calculator and that kind of stuff, right? But what a teacher has to do is they have to assess other people's questions and answers to see if they're correct or only partly correct. Even answers that kids give are never like wrong, right? Mm-hmm. They might only be partly correct though, right? They might have been going along quite well, and then they got stuck on something, right? What to do with that negative, or you know, what do you do like when you only have half of a circle or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so, are their solutions correct or only partially correct? And not only that, are they presented like in a conventional way, like, you know, using a standard algorithm or something like that, or are they done in some unconventional way? Because there's always more than one way to get an answer, right? Then my third point is always like an educated adult, they just need to know how. They don't need to know why something works. But a teacher needs to not only know how it works, but also why does that work. Like, teachers need to know that because children need to understand that eventually too if they're going to develop like really deep understanding. So then the next one I would say is like an educated adult, they only need to know one way to get the answers. They need to know one strategy. That's all they need to know. But teachers need to know like many different strategies and ways of thinking about something, because there's lots of ways to find like answers, and depending on the developmental level of the children and their experiences, they're going to have different ways to do it. So you can't just say, oh, that's wrong to a kid. You have to say, well, oh, I see what you're doing. You're doing it this way. Well, here's how someone else did it. Do you see how they're the same or different? And you slowly move them towards like more conventional and more robust solutions. And then the final one I would say is like when you're doing your work, like as an educated adult, you don't need to show your work. You don't need to reveal your process. You can be as messy as you want. You can, you know, take shortcuts. You can do all kinds of stuff, right? But when you're a teacher, you need to be able to model your thinking and your processes, and you need to slowly like unwind it so that other people following your explanations or your instructions can develop their own understanding for it. So they can slowly, you give them the opportunity to construct that stuff that you know. If you look just at those like little bullet points, I don't see how a teacher test would address any of that.